Just a few days ago, a seemingly ordinary day in Brentwood turned into a moment that would change Romy Reiner's life forever. Romy, the daughter of Hollywood legend Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner, had been going about her routine when she realized something was wrong. Her parents were not answering their phones, and an uneasy feeling gnawed at her. Growing up in that house, she had countless memories of laughter, family dinners, and quiet evenings, and the thought that something might have gone wrong filled her with dread. Without pausing to think, Romy drove as fast as she could to the family home, her heart pounding and her mind racing with fear and uncertainty. As she stepped inside, she was immediately confronted by the reality that nothing would ever be the same. The home that had been full of warmth and comfort now felt cold and unfamiliar, and an overwhelming sense of fear and confusion took hold. Romy's body trembled, her voice caught in her throat as she struggled to call for help, and her thoughts were consumed with worry for her parents' safety. She quickly dialed 911, trying to describe the situation, her words breaking with panic, barely forming sentences as she asked for immediate assistance. Each second that passed while waiting for help felt like an eternity, her mind replaying every memory of her parents, wondering how such a thing could happen in a place that had always been safe. The fear and anxiety were almost unbearable, yet she tried to remain composed enough to give accurate information to the operators, desperately hoping that someone could arrive in time. She contacted close friends and family, her voice shaking, explaining that something terrible had happened, that she feared the worst, and that she needed help immediately. Friends rushed to the home, trying to provide comfort, but the shock and the magnitude of the situation were almost impossible to process. Romy felt frozen between disbelief and the need to act, and as she waited for emergency responders to arrive, she could feel her heart pounding, her thoughts spinning, and her mind caught in a haze of fear, sadness, and desperate hope that her parents might somehow be safe. The hours that followed were filled with tension, uncertainty, and emotional turmoil, each moment testing her ability to cope with the unfolding tragedy, leaving her feeling exhausted, numb, and overwhelmed by emotions that seemed impossible to manage alone. When the emergency responders finally arrived, Romy was escorted out of the house, and the reality of the situation began to sink in. The shock of what she had witnessed left her physically and emotionally drained. Her body felt weak, her thoughts scattered, and every sound, every movement around her seemed amplified, making it difficult to focus on anything except the overwhelming sense of loss and fear. Romy was taken to the hospital, where doctors quickly assessed her condition, not just for her physical well-being, but for her mental and emotional state as well. It became clear that the experience had left her in a severe state of shock, and she was diagnosed with acute stress and psychological trauma. The images and memories of that day replayed constantly in her mind, every detail vivid and painful, making it hard to eat, sleep, or even speak. Family and friends stayed close, offering comfort and support, but the weight of grief and fear could not be lifted so easily. Romy's mind kept returning to questions about the events, what had led to this tragedy, and what might happen next. She struggled to reconcile the life she had known, filled with love and safety, with the sudden, harsh reality that everything had changed. Even simple things, like the sounds of footsteps, passing cars, or the flashing lights of ambulances, triggered intense anxiety and fear as her mind associated these signs with that day's trauma. Despite the support of those around her, she often felt isolated in her pain, trapped in memories she could not escape. Slowly, over time, she began to regain a sense of control, taking one step at a time toward understanding and processing what had happened. The journey was slow, painful, and filled with emotional challenges, as she struggled to navigate life after a tragedy that had not only affected her, but her entire family, leaving scars that would remain long after the initial shock had passed. Through all this, Romy's resilience began to show, as she found the courage to face the media, speak about her experiences, and shed light on the personal and emotional toll that the events had taken on her life, demonstrating strength in the face of unimaginable loss. Paragraph 3. Eventually, the focus turned to the investigation and the arrest of Romy's younger brother, Nick Reiner, which added another layer of complexity and emotion to an already devastating situation. Learning about his arrest brought a mixture of relief, confusion, and sorrow, as Romy tried to reconcile her love for her brother with the legal reality he was now facing. She realized that coping with grief was not just about mourning her parents, but also about processing the complicated emotions surrounding her family as a whole. Speaking publicly to the media, Romy revealed the pain and struggles she had endured, showing that even in families that appear perfect from the outside, unimaginable hardships and tragedies can occur. Her story highlighted the importance of mental health, support systems, and resilience when faced with situations that seem impossible to overcome. Through interviews and public statements, she shared the challenges of dealing with trauma, fear, and grief, while also emphasizing the need for understanding, compassion, and patience, both from others and from herself. Her revelations not only brought awareness to her personal story, but also resonated with others who have experienced similar losses, offering a sense of connection and empathy to people who may have faced their own tragedies. While the journey toward healing would be long and complicated, Romy's courage in speaking out provided a sense of hope and strength, showing that even in the darkest moments, sharing one's experiences and seeking help can be a crucial step toward recovery. Her story is a powerful reminder that life can change in an instant, that tragedy can affect anyone, and that the process of healing, though difficult, is possible with support, resilience, and courage. Strong, the sudden tragedy that struck the Reiner family sent shockwaves through everyone who knew them, as well as their countless fans around the world. For Romy Reiner, the grief was immediate and overwhelming. At first, she felt a sense of panic that seemed to paralyze her, making it hard to think clearly or process what had happened. It was a moment where the world seemed to collapse around her. Her parents, Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner, had been central figures in her life, not just as parents, but as guides, mentors, and the anchors of her family. Their sudden absence left a gap that seemed impossible to fill. In the midst of this heartbreak, Romy realized that her feelings were not just sorrow, but a combination of shock, disbelief, and growing anger. This anger, though painful, helped her begin to think more clearly. She recognized that the events were not only tragic, but involved serious wrongdoing that demanded accountability. As she sat quietly, trying to collect her thoughts, a phone call arrived that intensified every emotion she was feeling. On the other end was Nick, a family member whose actions had contributed to this devastating situation. His trembling voice pleaded for help, asking for $4 million to post bail. Each word he spoke felt like a direct challenge to the pain and grief Romy was already experiencing. It was a moment that crystallized her sense of responsibility, not just as a daughter, but as someone entrusted with protecting her family's legacy. Romy's response was firm and decisive. She refused to give in to manipulation or to allow anyone to exploit the family's assets. Her anger, though intense, was guided by clarity and a sense of duty. She knew that protecting what her parents had built was not just about money. It was about honor, trust, and justice. Every decision she made that day reflected the seriousness with which she approached the responsibility. She realized that she had to act with both speed and precision, working closely with legal counsel to ensure that every step taken was above reproach and fully aligned with the law. This first part of her journey, transforming grief into action, was a powerful demonstration of resilience. It was not just about responding to immediate threats, but also about making sure that her parents' legacy remained protected. As Romy took calls, reviewed documents, and thought through her strategy, she began to feel a sense of control returning, even in the midst of unimaginable loss. While the pain remained, the clarity of purpose gave her a framework to navigate the next steps. She began to understand that her actions now would define the family's future and honor the memory of her parents. Each decision, each phone call, each legal step became a part of her way to channel grief into purpose. Romy's ability to remain focused during such a turbulent time reflected her strength and the depth of her commitment to her family. Beyond the immediate crisis, she also began to think about how to communicate with the public. Sharing a statement on social media would allow her to express her grief, maintain transparency, and address the public interest surrounding the family's situation. She carefully drafted a statement that balanced emotion with dignity. It read, "Our family is in profound grief and shock over what has happened. We love one another and will stand together as we get through this extremely difficult time." These words, though simple, carried weight. They allowed Romy to acknowledge the pain, while also affirming her role as a protector and spokesperson for her family. In the hours following her statement, messages poured in from fans, colleagues, and friends, offering support, sympathy, and encouragement. While no words could erase the tragedy, they reminded Romy that she was not facing this alone. She felt a sense of connection to the wider community, and this recognition helped strengthen her resolve. It became clear to her that grief could coexist with responsibility, and that even in moments of deep personal loss, careful action and measured responses could make a difference. Romy's first day after the tragedy demonstrated a combination of emotional strength, legal awareness, and moral clarity. Each decision, from refusing Nick's demands to coordinating with attorneys, was made with a sense of purpose that went beyond immediate emotions. She had already begun the difficult process of turning grief into action, laying the foundation for what would become a careful, deliberate, and resolute response to a situation that had the potential to spiral out of control. As the day progressed, Romy Reiner's sense of duty became even clearer. She spent hours in close communication with her family's attorney, David Cohen, ensuring that every legal action was executed flawlessly. From reviewing documents to establishing safeguards for the estate, Romy was meticulous in her approach. She understood that the family's estate, valued at approximately $200 million, represented more than financial wealth. It symbolized her parents' hard work, values, and the love they had built over a lifetime. Protecting it was not just about money. It was a moral responsibility. Each step she took reflected her understanding that trust and family bonds could not be exploited. Romy carefully reviewed accounts, properties, investments, and legal instruments like powers of attorney and wills. She insisted that every action be transparent and above reproach, leaving no room for error or manipulation. Her determination was clear. The estate would remain in safe hands, and no one could take advantage of the situation. Amid these legal responsibilities, Romy also had to navigate intense emotional challenges. Every mention of her parents, every update regarding the legal case, reminded her of their absence and the magnitude of the loss. Yet, despite the psychological weight, she demonstrated resilience and focus. Romy understood that leadership in times of crisis required not just emotional courage, but also precision, planning, and accountability. In addition to managing legal matters, Romy continued to engage with the public and the media. Messages of sympathy, tributes, and heartfelt remembrances poured in from fans and Hollywood colleagues alike. Names like Zooey Deschanel, Kathy Bates, Ben Stiller, and Harry Shearer appeared in social media posts and press coverage, sharing stories and memories of Rob Reiner's work, kindness, and influence. Romy quietly read each comment, feeling the depth of her parents' impact on countless lives. These moments, though bittersweet, offered comfort and reinforced her commitment to preserve their legacy. Simultaneously, the media scrutiny intensified. Cameras, microphones, and reporters continually pressed for statements, updates, and personal reactions. Romy faced the challenge of maintaining privacy while addressing the public and protecting the family's legal and financial interests. She responded carefully, balancing transparency with discretion. Her approach demonstrated not just intelligence, but a deep understanding of public communication in sensitive situations. Over the course of the day, Romy's determination became a powerful example of resilience. She transformed grief into structured action, managing complex legal matters while honoring the memory of her parents. Every phone call with attorneys, every email, every legal procedure became part of her strategy to ensure that nothing could harm the family's estate or tarnish her parents' legacy. Romy's story resonated beyond her personal circumstances. It highlighted the difficult balance between personal grief, family responsibility, and public expectation. Her actions demonstrated that even in the most painful circumstances, focus, clarity, and courage could help navigate challenges that might otherwise feel insurmountable. By the end of the day, Romy had established a framework to safeguard the family's interests, coordinate with authorities, and communicate effectively with the public. Her ability to act decisively under pressure was a testament to her character, training, and the values instilled in her by her parents. It became clear that she would not allow tragedy or external pressures to weaken her resolve. Her commitment to protecting the estate and honoring her parents' memory had become a guiding principle, providing both structure and purpose amid the emotional turmoil. Romy's actions in this period reflect the way grief and responsibility can coexist, how pain can fuel clarity, and how love for family can transform sorrow into determination. Her story serves as an example of resilience in the face of profound loss, and of the care, thought, and precision required to protect both family and legacy during difficult times. Throughout this challenging period, Romy Reiner continued to embody strength, responsibility, and care. Every update from authorities, every legal step, and every interaction with attorneys reinforced her understanding that the estate's protection required